Samantha Sam Hayes strides into the high-rise office with the poise of someone who has fought hard to reclaim her place in the world. The lobby's polished marble floors reflect her heels' crisp, confident clicks, each step echoing authority. Her sharp suit and meticulously styled hair convey control and meticulous attention to detail. She is the image of success, a woman who has transformed her pain into power. Flashback fragments, like jagged shards of memory, pierce her composure. She remembers her early 20s when David Cole, the man she trusted most, abandoned her in the midst of scandal. Their small family business, which she had loved and nurtured, collapsed under false accusations and mismanagement she was blamed for. Sam had felt invisible, humiliated, and betrayed, watching her family struggle while David's betrayal left her emotionally stranded. Now, entering his world unannounced, she is no longer the naive young woman he once knew. She exudes calm dominance, but beneath her measured exterior simmers a tension that hints at a storm. Every detail of the office, the glass walls, the city view, the hum of executives in motion, mirrors both the heights she has reached and the battlefield she is entering. The audience senses immediately that Sam's return is not casual. It is a calculated intrusion into the life of the man who once ruined hers, setting the stage for a collision charged with old wounds and unspoken power struggles. David Cole is the epitome of corporate success, a man who has built an empire from charm, strategy, and ruthless decisiveness. In the boardroom, he is surrounded by colleagues who defer to his presence, yet he is oblivious to the quiet storm approaching the glass doors. As Sam steps inside, the air seems to tighten, her confidence radiating like a subtle electric charge that even she barely notices. She observes David carefully, the slight aging at his temples, the practiced gestures, the arrogance of a man who believes the past is irrelevant. Flashbacks intrude again, the nights she spent crying herself to sleep after his betrayal, the sting of humiliation when friends and relatives whispered behind her back, the promises he made that dissolved into betrayal. Yet here she stands, no longer vulnerable, no longer pleading for acknowledgement. Her calm gaze meets his, and for a fraction of a second, he falters. There is recognition, but it is muddled by years, power, and misplaced certainty. Sam's silence is louder than words. It carries the weight of all the years she has endured and all the successes she has achieved in his absence. The audience feels the tension, a former love turned adversary, a past intertwined with betrayal, now playing out in a setting where stakes are measured not just in dollars, but in reputations, pride, and long-suppressed anger. As Sam watches David orchestrate a financial maneuver, a pang of memory strikes sharply. She recalls the intimate moments of trust and vulnerability that preceded his betrayal, the laughter they shared, the whispered dreams, the comfort of feeling safe with someone who would ultimately abandon her. The memory of humiliation, the failed family business, the whispered gossip, the nights spent patching broken hearts and bruised pride fuels a quiet fury, one she has honed into determination over the years. An anonymous tip lands on her phone. David is about to make a risky financial decision, one that could devastate a small business still connected to her old community, the people she once loved and who once relied on her family. The convergence of personal vendetta and moral obligation crystallizes in her mind. She cannot remain a bystander. Her past, her pain, and her growth demand action. The audience feels the emotional tension peak as Sam's internal reckoning aligns with external opportunity. Her decision is instant yet deliberate. She will intervene, not just for revenge, but to protect, to reclaim justice, to assert the power she has earned. The scene closes on her poised, measured expression, eyes glinting with suppressed anger and calculated resolve, signaling the beginning of a journey where betrayal, transformation, and desire for justice will collide in a high-stakes corporate battlefield. Samantha Sam Hayes grew up in a modest, bustling neighborhood, where streets hummed with a mix of ambition, struggle, and neighborly camaraderie. Her parents died when she was a teenager, leaving her the unofficial guardian of her younger brother, Marcus. Responsibility fell heavily on her shoulders, shaping her into a fiercely ambitious and resourceful young woman. Even as a child, she learned to negotiate, manage, and care for others, skills that would later translate into her business acumen. Her family's cafe became the epicenter of her dreams, a place she poured herself into, where each pastry, each carefully brewed cup of coffee symbolized hope, resilience, and a future she could control. But that hope shattered when David Cole, her fiancé at the time, manipulated key investors and abandoned her, leaving her family financially and emotionally devastated. Sam experienced public humiliation, betrayal, and the sharp sting of a love turned toxic. Marcus, once resentful of her leadership during those trying years, internalized his own grief and occasionally blamed her for the collapse. These early experiences, though painful, seeded an iron will, a careful wariness toward trust, and a drive to never be powerless again. The audience senses her trauma is not just a backdrop, it is the engine of her future ambition, and the scars of betrayal continue to linger subtly, influencing her decisions, alliances, and even the smallest gestures in her meticulously controlled adult life. Fast forward a decade, and Sam is no longer the naive, trusting young woman who once held her family's cafe together with hope and heartbreak. She has quietly built a thriving tech consulting empire, her influence spanning boardrooms and startup incubators alike. Wealth, yes, but more importantly, respect and authority, the kind she lacked in her 20s. Each day is a carefully choreographed dance of high-stakes meetings, strategic negotiations, and mentorship programs for young women who see her as a model of resilience and empowerment. The contrast between past and present is stark. Where she once felt vulnerable and powerless, she now radiates control, intelligence, and confidence. Yet beneath her polished exterior, traces of the old Sam remain, a flash of nostalgia when Marcus laughs at a shared memory, a pang of hurt when she sees the ease of people who trust too freely. Her life is a careful balance between remembering the lessons of betrayal and ensuring they never define her entirely. Lily, her lifelong best friend, remains her anchor, blending humor with sage advice, reminding Sam to laugh, to feel, and to navigate life without becoming cold or unapproachable. In this present setup, the audience understands that Sam's ambition is inseparable from her history. She wields her power not just for profit, but as armor against past vulnerability. The stakes of Sam's world extend beyond corporate success. They are intimately tied to personal history and justice. David Cole's shadow still lingers, amplified by the presence of his fiancée, Vanessa, whose polished manipulation mirrors the betrayal Sam endured years ago. Vanessa's subtle arrogance and perception of Sam as a threat heighten the tension, making every future confrontation more layered than a simple business clash. Sam reflects often on the gap between the woman she was, trusting, open-hearted, emotionally vulnerable, and the strategic, assertive figure she has become. These reflections are not merely nostalgic, they fuel her decisions, reminding her of what is worth protecting, whom she owes loyalty, and how far she has come. Moments of mentorship with young women offer both relief and perspective, highlighting her growth and compassion, even amid ruthless boardroom battles. Marcus, once conflicted, now acts as her protector, reflecting the changed dynamics of family and support. The audience senses that Sam's trajectory is poised for collision, past betrayals, present power, and the impending challenge posed by David and Vanessa converge into a tense, emotionally charged narrative. The foundation is set for a confrontation that is as psychological and personal as it is professional, with the audience deeply invested in Sam's resilience, emotional stakes, and the subtle ache of history that informs every decisive action she takes. The revelation hits Sam like a thunderclap. Her firm's analysts uncover that David Cole's investment firm is about to initiate a hostile move against a small business with deep personal significance to her. It's not just any company, it is a cornerstone of her old community, a place that supported her family and where loyal friends and employees still operate under precarious conditions. The news is almost surreal. David, the man who once shattered her life, is now poised to crush the livelihoods of people she still cares for, wielding the same cold manipulation he demonstrated a decade ago. Shock and disbelief flash across her face as her mind replays memories of betrayal, humiliation, and abandonment. The cafe, the whispered gossip, the public disgrace she endured all resurface in vivid detail. But this time, the emotional weight is different. Sam is no longer the vulnerable young woman who crumbled under David's deception. The pain is real, but it is now tempered by experience, power, and clarity. Her pulse quickens, not with fear, but with a focused resolve. She knows instinctively that this is the moment where past and present collide, where the ghosts of betrayal can be confronted with calculated action. The audience feels her shock, her renewed anger, and the flicker of strategic thinking forming alongside the emotional response, signaling that this is the event that will propel her from passive observer to active agent of change. The opportunity to act arises at a lavish gala, a room glittering with chandeliers, champagne, and the soft murmur of influential elites. Sam's entrance is deliberate, commanding attention without the need for grand theatrics. Every eye subtly shifts, drawn to her presence. She locates David across the room, now polished, self-assured, and oblivious to the storm approaching him. Their eyes meet, and the tension is immediate and suffocating, the kind that presses against the walls of the elegantly adorned hall. Flashbacks cut sharply through her composure, David's sudden departure years ago, the excuses he flung like shields, and the lies that masked his betrayal. She recalls the humiliation of public whispers, the sting of misplaced trust, and the heartbreak that lingered long after the cafe failed. Mirroring her inner turmoil, David's discomfort is palpable. He senses something is different, something potent in her presence, though he cannot yet grasp its full force. Words are exchanged, careful, loaded, undercurrents of past intimacy and animosity swirling between them. The gala, meant to showcase influence and status, becomes a crucible where past betrayals and current power collide. The audience feels the mix of unresolved heartbreak and professional tension, knowing that every gesture, glance, and carefully chosen word carries the weight of years lost and grievances unresolved. As the conversation unfolds, Sam experiences a pivotal shift. She recognizes that she holds leverage not just in emotion, but in intellect and strategy. The emotional pain of the past no longer dictates her actions. Instead, it fuels a sharp, calculated awareness of opportunity. She sees the threads she can manipulate, the moves she can orchestrate to protect the small business, expose David's recklessness, and reclaim her sense of justice. Her instinct is no longer to lash out impulsively. She understands that power lies in precision, patience, and the careful blend of business acumen with emotional insight. In that realization, her heartbeat steadies, and her mind begins mapping contingencies, potential alliances, and tactical maneuvers. Shock has transformed into purpose, betrayal into motivation, and heartbreak into a tool of empowerment. The audience witnesses Sam's evolution from reactive to proactive, from victim to strategist. This moment cements her trajectory for the story. She will confront the man who once destroyed her life, but on her terms, blending intellect, influence, and the emotional depth forged from years of resilience. The scene closes with her poised, collected, and quietly fierce, signaling that the inciting incident has not only set the plot in motion but awakened the full force of Sam's agency. Sam's return to the business world is subtle but devastatingly effective. Behind closed doors and beneath the veneer of polite networking events, she quietly begins to influence key decision-makers in the same circles that David dominates. She negotiates discreetly with investors, guiding capital toward ventures he seeks to undermine and diverting attention away from his high-profile deals. In boardrooms adorned with polished mahogany and sleek glass tables, Sam's presence is a masterclass in composed authority. She leans lightly on facts, artfully frames arguments, and plants seeds of doubt that blossom into strategic advantages. Every handshake, every suggestion, and every casual remark carries layers of influence that David cannot detect, at least not immediately. The audience sees her genius in action, a blend of intellect and careful emotional calibration, where her past wounds fuel her determination without clouding her precision. David's transactions begin to falter, subtle embarrassments ripple through his carefully curated image, and murmurs of his miscalculations start circulating in whispers. Each victory is both professional and deeply personal, an unspoken reclamation of the power he once stripped from her. Yet, in these moments of triumph, Sam cannot fully escape the echo of her former vulnerability, the ache of what was lost, the personal cost of calculated manipulation, and the quiet, unspoken reflection that revenge, no matter how elegant, carries its own moral weight. The tension escalates, showing the audience that her campaign is as much psychological as it is financial. As Sam's influence grows, David begins to notice her not just as a figure from the past but as a current threat. He attempts his old tactics, charm, intimidation, and the occasional subtle undermining, but finds her composed, unshakable, and increasingly confident. Each interaction is a carefully measured game of power, where past intimacy complicates present rivalry. Meanwhile, Vanessa senses the disruption Sam introduces into their meticulously curated world. Her jealousy and insecurity manifest as subtle sabotage, veiled remarks at public events, discreet interference in meetings, and whispered attempts to manipulate mutual allies against Sam. These personal confrontations heighten the stakes, transforming boardroom battles into psychological duels where every smile, glance, and gesture carries significance. The audience senses an electric tension. David's frustration grows, Vanessa's anxiety intensifies, and Sam must navigate a labyrinth of human emotion, professional etiquette, and strategic advantage simultaneously. Each exchange is layered, reflecting not only the characters' external ambitions but also their internal insecurities, desires, and unresolved histories. Sam's ability to maintain composure while subtly influencing outcomes demonstrates her growth since the days of betrayal, yet the recurring reminders of past pain ensure the emotional stakes remain high, deepening both suspense and empathy. Amid the calculated maneuvers and mounting tension, Sam confronts a quieter, internal struggle, the conflict between revenge and forgiveness. While her actions are meticulously strategic, she occasionally questions whether her pursuit of justice is consuming her humanity, leaving little room for empathy, joy, or genuine connection. Marcus, once solely protective, voices concern, questioning the personal cost of her relentless campaign and whether she risks becoming as ruthless as David. Lily, ever the moral compass and source of comic relief, encourages reflection, urging Sam to avoid letting past betrayal harden her heart completely. These interactions provide emotional counterpoints to the high-stakes power plays, reminding the audience that Sam's journey is not only about outmaneuvering David but also about retaining her sense of self. The tension between professional acumen and moral introspection adds layers of suspense. The audience wonders if her revenge will be precise and just or if the pursuit of victory will blur ethical lines. Every choice, from public strategy to private reflection, carries weight, reinforcing the narrative that rising tension is not merely about external obstacles but also about navigating the complex interplay of morality, ambition, and emotional truth. By blending calculated influence, personal confrontation, and inner conflict, the story deepens, pulling the audience into an intricate web of suspense, power, and emotional intensity. The tension reaches its apex at a lavish corporate gala, where glittering chandeliers illuminate the city skyline and every attendee is acutely aware of the event's high-profile significance. Sam steps onto the stage with measured composure, the weight of years of preparation concentrated in every movement and word. The audience holds its breath as she presents carefully documented evidence of David Cole's unethical practices, secret manipulations, investor coercion, and concealed attempts to bankrupt the small business she cares for. The shock is palpable, murmurs ripple through the crowd, glasses clink nervously, and executives shift uneasily in their seats. David, caught off guard and visibly unsettled, struggles to maintain the polished poise that once masked his arrogance. Flashbacks intrude subtly, highlighting Sam's journey from the humiliated young woman to the formidable strategist commanding the room. Every slide, every document, and every pointed observation is not only a professional coup but a deeply personal reclamation of agency. The audience experiences a mix of suspense and emotional release as the narrative tension, built over years of betrayal and calculated maneuvering, finally comes to a head. This public confrontation is more than exposure, it is a symbolic undoing of the power dynamics that once defined Sam's life. Just as the room begins to settle into stunned whispers, the narrative takes an unexpected turn. David, caught between shame and honesty, admits privately to Sam and indirectly to the audience that he harbored regret for his past betrayals, yet his pride prevented him from making amends. His confession adds a layer of complexity to the conflict, humanizing him without absolving his wrongdoing. The moment is immediately compounded when Vanessa, David's fiancée, further destabilizes the scene. In a calculated act of betrayal, she publicly reveals that she colluded with Sam's rivals earlier, amplifying the humiliation and demonstrating her manipulative, opportunistic nature. The room's energy shifts, and the stakes become even more intricate, exposing layered deceit and alliances. Sam, however, remains unshaken. She responds with calm authority, refusing to gloat or resort to petty vengeance. Her measured reaction amplifies her victory. While David and Vanessa are flustered and exposed, Sam's composure underscores the emotional and moral strength she has cultivated over a decade of resilience. The twist not only heightens dramatic tension but also enriches the story's emotional depth, showing that power is most potent when wielded with intelligence and restraint rather than impulsive emotion. In the aftermath of the confrontation, Sam experiences a profound internal catharsis. The evidence has been laid bare, the villains exposed, and the business community has witnessed her competence and moral clarity. Yet the ultimate victory is not David's downfall, but her liberation from the weight of past betrayal. She recognizes that the humiliating memories, the heartbreak, and the years of suppressed anger no longer define her identity. Rather than seeking vengeance for personal satisfaction, she has used her intellect, strategy, and emotional resilience to assert justice and reclaim her narrative. Marcus, Lily, and even some of the previously skeptical allies observe her composed triumph, providing external validation, but the true satisfaction is internal. Sam feels a quiet, bittersweet relief that comes from self-empowerment. The audience, witnessing the culmination of years of struggle, betrayal, and growth, experiences a sense of catharsis and closure, understanding that the story is as much about personal transformation as it is about corporate victory. The climax closes on Sam's poised figure amidst the glittering gala lights, a symbol of strength, wisdom, and moral clarity, marking the apex of emotional intensity and narrative satisfaction. With the dust of confrontation settled, Sam turns her attention outward, channeling her energy into helping the small business network David once targeted regain stability and thrive. Leveraging her influence, she establishes mentorship programs, financial support systems, and networking opportunities, ensuring that local entrepreneurs have access to resources previously denied. Each small victory, a cafe reopening, a supplier regaining contracts, a young entrepreneur receiving guidance, feels personally fulfilling, reinforcing the sense that Sam's power can be used for constructive, positive change. The audience sees her not merely as a corporate strategist but as a community hero whose actions bridge past injustice and present empowerment. Her company, meanwhile, flourishes under ethical practices that contrast sharply with the underhanded tactics of her rivals. Employees and protégés alike admire her integrity, her clear-headed leadership, and her ability to balance ambition with empathy. Scenes of mentorship, office strategy sessions, and collaborative decision-making showcase a woman whose intelligence and moral compass are aligned, creating a professional environment that nurtures both growth and personal development. Through these acts, Sam's journey demonstrates that true empowerment arises not from vengeance or domination, but from strategic action combined with moral responsibility. The audience feels the weight of her transformation, witnessing a heroine who has reclaimed her power while uplifting those around her, reinforcing the story's themes of resilience and justice. Amid the professional victories, Sam finds quiet moments for introspection. She reflects on the years of betrayal, humiliation, and emotional upheaval, recognizing how these experiences, while painful, forged her into the formidable woman she has become. Flashbacks to her family cafe, her early heartbreak with David, and the sleepless nights managing Marcus' care resurface, but this time they are tempered by acceptance and understanding. Rather than dwell in resentment, she acknowledges the lessons learned and the strength gained from overcoming adversity. Marcus, now fully supportive and protective, observes his sister's growth with pride, and Lily's presence provides both comic relief and grounding advice, reminding Sam of the value of connection, laughter, and perspective. These interactions emphasize that healing is not solitary, it requires reflection, relationships, and the ability to integrate past pain into present wisdom. Sam's journey illustrates that empowerment is intertwined with emotional resilience. She can be ambitious, strategic, and influential while maintaining compassion and moral clarity. The audience witnesses her personal equilibrium, a balance of intellect, empathy, and inner peace, providing emotional closure and reinforcing the narrative arc of transformation. In the quieter spaces of her evolving life, Sam begins to explore personal fulfillment beyond career triumphs. A subtle connection develops with Alex, Marcus' close friend, whose presence reflects respect, trust, and genuine admiration rather than manipulation or power games. Their interactions are light, sincere, and unhurried, shared laughter over coffee, collaborative brainstorming on a community project, and small gestures of care that hint at romance rooted in mutual respect. This understated dynamic contrasts sharply with the toxic entanglements of her past, reinforcing the narrative that Sam's growth encompasses both professional and personal dimensions. The story closes on a note of holistic empowerment. Her company thrives ethically, the small business community flourishes, David and Vanessa's influence diminishes naturally without vindictiveness, and Sam stands as a figure of resilience, wisdom, and hope. She is no longer defined by betrayal or loss. Instead, she embodies the strength and balance that arise from embracing past pain, channeling it into meaningful action, and nurturing relationships built on integrity. The audience experiences a satisfying sense of closure and optimism, knowing that Sam's journey reflects both triumph and humanity, a story of empowerment, healing, and the enduring rewards of moral and emotional resilience. The sun filters softly through the windows of Sam's old family cafe, illuminating the polished counters, cheerful decor, and the steady rhythm of a community coming together. The cafe, once a symbol of loss and humiliation, now thrives under the careful stewardship of local entrepreneurs and loyal patrons she helped support. Stepping inside, Sam feels a wave of nostalgia mixed with profound relief. The echoes of past struggles no longer weigh her down. Every familiar corner carries memories, laughter shared over early morning coffees, quiet moments of exhaustion during late nights managing the cafe, and the heartbreak that followed David's betrayal. In her hands, she holds a small, delicate object, David's old engagement ring. It represents a chapter of her life defined by naivety, trust, and pain. With a quiet exhale, she places it into a charity auction box, whispering, "This belongs to the past." The gesture is simple yet deeply symbolic. She acknowledges the pain, releases it, and asserts her autonomy. The act embodies both reflection and empowerment, signifying that her narrative is no longer dictated by those who once wronged her. The audience feels the weight of this moment, understanding that true closure is rooted not in vengeance, but in conscious liberation and reclaiming one's story. In a quiet corner of the cafe, Sam opens her journal, the pages filled with reflections, plans, and emotions spanning years of growth. She writes, "I didn't come back for revenge. I came back for me." Each word is a testament to the journey she has endured, the betrayal, heartbreak, setbacks, and the painstaking reconstruction of her life and career. This journaling moment allows her to articulate an internal truth that her victories are not measured by the downfall of David or the humiliation of Vanessa, but by her own transformation and resilience. Marcus and Lily are nearby, observing her peaceful composure, silently acknowledging the distance she has traveled from the young, vulnerable woman who once bore the weight of family and personal loss alone. Sam's reflection captures a key emotional beat. Empowerment is not about dominance over others, but mastery over oneself. The audience experiences a sense of catharsis, as the protagonist not only survives past trauma but thrives in a way that is morally and emotionally fulfilling, leaving a resonant message about self-worth, integrity, and the long-term rewards of resilience. The final scene unfolds as Sam steps outside, the city skyline bathed in the golden glow of sunset. She pauses on the cafe steps, taking in the bustling streets, the glowing lights, and the sense of possibility surrounding her. Her posture is upright, confident, and unyielding. Every line of her body communicates independence, strength, and emotional freedom. The audience witnesses a woman who has navigated betrayal, revenge, moral complexity, and personal growth, emerging not only victorious but whole. The camera lingers on her contemplative gaze, the warmth of the sun casting long shadows, symbolizing both the end of her struggles and the promise of new beginnings. Subtle hints, a smile toward Marcus and Alex in the distance, the casual laughter of community members within the cafe reinforce that her life now balances personal fulfillment, meaningful relationships, and professional accomplishment. The narrative closes with quiet triumph rather than dramatic spectacle, leaving viewers inspired by Sam's journey, a story of resilience, justice, and self-empowerment that resonates long after the screen fades. The emotional beat lingers, offering catharsis, hope, and a reminder that true victory comes from reclaiming one's life and identity.